Okay.
So everyone would please rise from the silence and then I'll have a pledge. Now pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, did everybody have a chance to review the minutes that we had from the last meeting? Were there any corrections or any additions that need to be added to that? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Chairman, I will move to approve the August 13th, 2020 meeting of the Hempfield Area Fire Services Commission Board of Directors.
Motion by Mr. LaFever. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Josh. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Housekeeping items. Meeting advertisements.
Yes, these came from an email from Karen, so we put them on the agenda. So the meeting advertisements, yes, the meetings are advertised. We've been taking care of it. We just put an ad in paper for the rest of the year on the third Tuesday. So next year we'll have to decide if that's still working for us.
Is that like start online also, or just?
Yes, they post online as well. Yep. The recordings, I think we have the Zoom function down now. It says it's recording the conversation, so I think we're good there. And the minutes, of course, are approved at each meeting. At this point, we don't really have a location to post them at, but we can add space on the township website, and it probably would be a good idea to put it on the East Pete website as well. So I'll have to talk to Karen about that once they're approved, that they get posted. Yes.
I think one of the concerns from the borough was that the meeting minutes were coming out a little bit later than their council meetings, so they didn't have.
Well, we have, sorry to interrupt. We have a committee meeting on Thursday. Like next Thursday, we have a committee meeting, and that's when we need the minutes from by then.
And I did respond to Karen. That was the last thing on her list, and we will make every attempt to get those done. Those are done by Karen, or I'm sorry, Diane.
Our committee meetings are the fourth Thursday of the month.
Right, so she would have a little over a week and a half to get them done.
Right.
So she can make that attempt.
So Thursday's the meeting. Do you guys need to have them before Thursday? Do you need to have them by Tuesday or Wednesday?
I mean, I would say at least Wednesday, so then
At the latest.
council, can review those minutes, yeah.
Can we make an effort to have them done by Tuesday? That's a week. That gives us a week to get them done. That should be fair.
For the fourth Tuesday. Okay. I'll share that with Diane. Okay.
Did you want to call Bill and see if he wants to participate by speaker and see what's here?
Sure. Hey, did you want to participate by speakerphone until you arrive? Okay. Scott was just asking if that's what you wanted to do, just to participate?
I think Karen.
She hasn't logged
Okay,
in.
so I'm going to put you on speaker.
If that works, unless, if you give me his number, I can call him from this phone. That might be better. I don't know. If he can hear us, that's great.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to give your phone number, and they're going to call you from the phone here, okay? So all right, so we're going to hang up, and then another number's going to call you. All right, bye.
Mhm.
717-808-2082.
Okay, I'm here. Very good, thanks, Bill. So we're getting into, starting to get into the meat of the meeting here. And I just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to hear the discussion and take part in it. So item number 4, the chief fire official. At our last meeting, we asked each organization and each government entity to take back to their board and for a final review and approval. And I just want to go through and make sure that that did happen. Everybody, if you have edits or suggestions, as of right now, Diane has not received any, but I just want to make sure before we move forward that there were none to be offered. So did anybody have any changes?
I guess, speaking on behalf of Borough Council, is we really have not had an opportunity to thoroughly review this. And Cindy attended our last meeting, and we had a lot of concerns that we shared with her. I don't know if she shared them with anybody else in the township or not. One thing is, we just don't see barely no reference to administrative duties in the description. And we really see this, and basically we're led to believe this position was going to be an administrative position, more so than a firefighter's position. And kind of like an 80-20 split. And we're just not seeing a reference, in that way towards this position. There's nothing about recruitment or retention or grant writing or funding or anything like that in there, unless it's covering a big, less the intention is that it's in there somewhere, but it's not specifically spelled out that in that level. And so, and that's what we were led to believe the position was going to be.
Karen, can you hear us? Karen, can you hear us?
Is she muted?
Karen, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Can't hear you, Karen.
Yes, I can hear you, Cindy.
Could you hear John speak?
Yes, I could.
Excellent. Thank you.
Do you guys have any specific language you want added?
We really haven't reviewed that yet. Okay.
Is there, I'm not trying to be pushy here, but if our goal is to hire somebody before the end of the year, we do need to be expedient. So,
Hearing that is, I believe the timeline's a little aggressive. Okay, and that being said, Ed had mentioned that the very first meeting that I attended, the first meeting of the commission, he basically said that everybody else had a year to year and a half head start on this, in front of the borough. Okay, so, now the borough, now everyone in the borough is like, you catch up, get up to speed, maybe not have adequate time to digest these items. Because when we review things, we thoroughly review them. We just don't do a glancing review on them. And we typically do that at our committee meeting. And the next committee meeting we have is next week. But we're in the midst of budget right now. And a lot of our rest of our meetings for this year is by budget up. So, You know, we don't want to be seen as uncooperative, but we don't want to rush through this procedure either.
Well, let me just put the ball in your court. When is a reasonable time in your estimation that you guys can get through this?
I think best case scenario would probably take us to the end of the year.
May I ask that possibly a list such as you just verbalized with administrative, with recruitment, grant, I missed another one that you said, if you could give us just those simple heading interests that you see missing, I think our staff could work on them to try and come up with something that's the right language. We don't want to be pushy, but we've had a lot of time in it, as I said, and we would like to get it in place. We see the need to get it in place. And that's why we've been doing what we've been doing. So if you could give us a half a dozen or whatever number of bullet point items, we definitely will take them under advisement. I went through here, I see 2 places where it definitely is administrative. But yes, there could be more clarification. I'm not going to dispute that.
I'd be willing to take that back to our committee meeting next week, right, with the rest of our members.
I guess that's the best we can do.
I do think the end of the year, I mean, that's a little too long, I think. And I guess I am a little surprised by it, but trying to work through it. I mean, is there any flexibility on your part to get through this before the end of the year? I mean, because if we don't get through this before the end of the year, basically, we're not going to hire somebody until March of next year.
And I guess, what's the rush?
Because we need it.
Because we feel the position is needed.
But you don't feel,
May I suggest, may I request, by after next Thursday's meeting, you give us those bullet points? And that's September. And by the next meeting in October, hopefully we can prepare something and even distribute it ahead of that meeting, which you could review. And we could at least move and get closer. Anything we can do to improve on your anticipation, we believe is important.
well, like I say that, I'll be happy to bring that forward to our committee meeting next Thursday.
Okay.
Because it's, you know, it's important to us that we have full involvement.
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, we want you to have full involvement. We want you to be on board, but to review a job description should not take us 3 months. I mean, that's
Well,
really.
no, we're not talking about, now, I'm not talking about taking 3 months to do this job description,
Okay.
all right? But I'm just looking at the overall timeline here that's kind of spelled out. In my opinion, that's aggressive. And just keep in mind, the meetings we have, we really only have,
We only have one more committee meeting because November, December, we do not have committee meetings.
Right. Well, I guess where I'm at is the job description should not be a big deal. It's not the end all be all document. It's important, but I think it can be reviewed and it doesn't need to take 3 months to get it reviewed. That's where I'm at with the job
well, I
description.
didn't mean to imply that it would take 3 months to
Okay.
review.
Because really, most of the work should be done by this body because I think everybody's agreed to the parameters already, what we've got set up. The working through things, my understanding is that's what this body's for. So if we get the job description approval, which shouldn't be that hard, I mean, I think it's up to this body to move through the rest of this. 90 Hempfield, 90 Petersburg, and not each individual fire department. If we did that, we would never get anywhere. So I really think that it's important that we do get through the job description and have a reasonable timeline to get that going.
I do have a question. In the education part of everything, because like I said, I'm very new to all of this.
Sure.
The associate's degree and or bachelor's degree, is there, we here, I know at East Pete Fire, we would like someone that has HR experience? Is there in the education part of their degrees? Is there HR business and accounting? Do we have any clue on that? Is there any, I mean, those are some highlights that are concerning for, I know, me, you know, do you have any clue if that is part of their education or?
Well, I mean, we can put out what we're seeking as far as the candidates come forward. We can have an emphasis on that type of background. You
But I
know?
mean, in their degree, do you know if they studied that in this? I tried to look and I couldn't find exactly what courses they would take to get this certain degree.
Without other knowledge, I would speculate that's an elective to a course of study
Okay,
that we've addressed.
right, okay,
So there's a good possibility someone has it, possibility they haven't,
right, okay,
and that could be a consideration of employment.
right, okay.
It depends on the program in the college.
Okay.
And where your concentration would lie within there. And they could have a course or two on it. But even, I'll speak for even larger departments, while you may have some coursework on it, even at the higher level there, you're still diverting or bringing in that external perspective of an HR person that is outside from the fire department and building a relationship with them to make those decisions.
So East Hempfield has their own HR department
Yes,
for the fire department?
not for the fire department, no, for our employees.
Well, yeah, I understand, for employees, but I mean for the fire, would this be separate or no? Because we hear East Pete had an HR issue, who would we go to if this individual does not have HR experience? That's my question, I guess.
It depends upon what the HR problem is. If it has to do with a member of the department, you would go to the department. If it would be the employee, the chief himself, you would come to the township. Guess maybe I'm not understanding your question.
Okay, for instance, let's say, you know, we have, you know, a female on our fire department. She's pregnant. Okay? Who are we to say that she can't go into a fire? To me, that would be an HR question.
That would be within your bylaws of your department.
That would fall on the bylaws. Okay.
I would think so, of your individual.
That's more SOP driven.
I'm sorry?
That's more SOP driven,
I don't know what that means.
standard operating procedure.
Okay.
So our fire department has a lengthy amount of SOPs, and they cover everything from how we're going to attack a fire to just that. You know, pregnancy within the fire department. Like for a career department, most career departments, you are pulled off the street, you're still employed, they find administrative work for you, but for the most part, pregnant females, it's in the best case is for for her not to be a firefighter, and B, for the fire department, for her not to be fighting a fire. She gets injured, obviously, she has that repercussion, and the department has that repercussion. So that's just that example.
Yeah, and I just threw something out there that popped in my head, I didn't know, you know, and does that also fall under age and all of that?
Typically, the SOPs are going to cover all of those items, you know, as far as hiring and you know, volunteer standpoint, 14, 16, 18-year junior firefighters, what they can and can't do, what age can you become volunteer, you know, requirements, training requirements, it's all driven under the SOPs. And as far as the administrative requirements, fire officer 3 and 4 under board certifications are equivalent. So fire officer, if anyone doesn't understand fire officer classes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 and 2 are more company level based as far as the officers in charge of a fire truck and the people on it and leading those people into situations. Well, fire officer 3 and 4, those classes are geared much more toward 3 is administrative, 4 is very administrative. So it's not a college degree, but fire officer 4, if you have that class, you definitely are learning a lot more about budgetary things and administrative and HR Granted, it's only a 40-hour program, but following that, you're very well geared to delve into that and, you know, operate the fire department, even though you are not the HR of the fire department, there's someone above it. You just become that liaison between HR and the personnel. But administratively, fire officer 3 and 4 definitely have a lot of benefit there. We have it as preferred. I mean, I personally would make it required. Anyone who's getting hired as a fire chief should have fire officer 3 and 4. But, yeah.
Okay. So just let's back up so we have clarification and we all leave here, we're on the same page for the job description. When do we think is a fair time for the borough to get through that and come up with suggestions for things that they want added? Where are we at with that? Bill?
Unfortunately, I apologize for giving the tail end of this, I'm depending on anything John to help me out with this.
John?
Well, I'd say the earliest we can talk about this is our next meeting next week. I would say we could get back, you know, and, Karen, you can feel free to chime in there, probably the following week after that meeting, what our thoughts are.
I just made a note that on the 24th, you're gonna have your meeting, and if by Monday the 28th, we could have that list. I'm hearing something here from Billy's comments. I, like some on the borough, don't know all the different fire logo and things that Billy just enumerated, to know that administrative duties are in those particular trainings. And so it's going to be helpful to me as well as others if Diane, who has that knowledge, gets these bullet points I asked for, and she can put it into a language that is readable to those novices of us, as well as the fire officials who live with this, and it's how this commission can work. So if you can get us that by Monday the 28th, I believe we could make something up by our next meeting in October. And I heard Petersburg Borough has no meetings in December, so I'd like, if we can have this resolved in a time frame that the ad and the applicants and that starting, and just that it moves. So I offer that suggestion of how we can, novices and experience work together in the commission.
Just to clarify, we have a committee meeting next week, September committee meeting. We have October council meeting, we have an October committee meeting, we have a November council meeting and December council meeting. That's what we have left.
Understand.
And we tend to discuss things like this at committee meeting, and then we can be active on council.
I'll speak for the township that we can make the effort to get the nomenclature and the things together that can make this work. And understanding you have 4 meetings left, hopefully we don't need all them to get into a process where we're looking for the fire official.
That is, Karen, do you think that's reasonable? We discuss this at the next committee meeting, we could have our comments back to Cindy by the following Monday or Tuesday?
Which date? September 28th?
I'm going by the date that Ed brought up, so I'm not looking at the calendar, so.
Your meeting's the 24th.
Yes, that is correct.
I'm suggesting by Monday the 28th following, you could have that information to staff here to work on.
That I'm not sure, because for number one, I do not know who all will be present for next week's meeting. Let me get back to you on that September 28th date.
Remember, I'm only asking bullet points. I'm not asking you to do narrative.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be perfect and all inclusive. It's dynamic. This whole thing's dynamic. So if we get 6 and later there's 1 or 2 more, we'll deal with it. But we'd like to be able to keep it moving.
because next week's meeting is, we're focusing on budget. But I will put this on the agenda for us to talk about. And I will do my very best to get this back to you guys on Monday, the 28th.
Thank you.
Okay, and when do you guys have your next board meeting after that, after the work group meeting?
October
A council meeting,
Council meeting?
First Tuesday.
it'd be the first Tuesday.
the
So
6th.
your first meeting would be in October.
October 6th, one behind you.
Okay. All right. What is the Thursday before October 6th? Is that? It's not gonna work. I wonder if there's a way for us to meet.
That's the 1st of October.
For us to meet, to put an extra meeting in there to get this resolved.
We need time for Diane or someone to put the narrative together.
Well, you
Right, that's
can-
what I'm saying.
You could talk about the bullet points. You could talk about the bullet points.
Oh, you just want to talk about them before we work on them.
Well, because this is key to moving forward. I mean, the job description is like the first step a baby takes. So, I mean, we're showing up right now to the starting line and we're delaying the start, which is fine. Let's make sure we get it right. But I'd like to get us where we have a path forward, because all the other stuff that we're going to talk about is really meaningless until we get through this. So, if you guys are meeting on the 24th and we get something from you by the 28th, Tuesday's the 6th. Are we able to meet before they meet again, Cindy?
We'd be meeting the 7th. Meeting again, meaning that, I'm not sure which meeting you're referring to.
Well, I mean, this body's already recommended it to the boards and to the fire departments already as is. So what I'm saying is it's going to be changed. Are we automatically going to go with those changes? Or are we going to review them and then recommend it to the boards again?
Well, you'd have the bullet points by the 28th. The East Pete Borough could officially discuss them at their meeting on the 6th. Our group can discuss them on the 7th. The fire companies, I'm not sure what your meetings are, sorry. But they're probably in the beginning of the month,
We're on the 7th.
on the 7th.
We're on the 13th.
Okay, so by the 13th, all of the groups would have been met. And your next meeting is on the 20th. So at the commission meeting, assuming the bullet points come on the 28th, they could be fully vetted by all the groups and then voted on the 20th by the commission.
All right. Does that seem reasonable for everybody?
When you look at the job description in here, I mean, the tough piece is gonna be this. No matter what, in my mind, no matter what you're looking at adding, when you look at, for example, the duties and responsibilities category, there's 9 bullet points there. The bullet points are never going to be, one bullet point is not necessarily represent 1/9 of their time. Strategic planning is gonna be significantly more than some of these other items are, so. It seems like it would be doable, because even if you came up with a number of additional tasks, they're just gonna be additional bullet points. There are things that I personally, honestly think probably fall under those headings, but they can be specifically listed in there, but it doesn't seem like it would be too excessive to put that in for some bullet points. And that's fine. Yeah, no, I understand the concern of placing those in there, but I'm saying I don't think it's not a large amount of narrative to place in there. I don't think the warrant's going a whole lot longer than that.
So we'll now back to the borough, is that satisfactory? So that we would be prepared. You guys will discuss it on the 24th work group. We'll get bullet points, we'll put them back into the job description, get them back to you for your October 6th meeting, and then we would come here on the 20th looking to approve it.
As long as there's no big questions within the borough.
Yeah, I don't. Aaron, your thoughts?
I have to agree with Willie, as long as there's, nothing major that was brought up during the meeting, I see no problem with us having, the bullet points back on the 28th. I see no problem with that.
Okay.
And then we can bring it forward to have it on the agenda for the 6th.
That is correct.
I do know too, at our committee meeting, when we had it, was discussion that they wanted a more clarification of a daily job of what the chief fire official is going to do.
Okay.
And that was something that was brought up by one of the members.
Yeah.
And I'm for that, I'm not for flying by the seat of my pants, but I mean, I think we need to get the horse in front of the cart and start walking. And we need to develop that. We're not going to have the entire game plan written out. I mean, we have a lot of time between now and December to get all this stuff. But right now, we're focusing on the job description, to get the hiring motion and process. We have time to work out these other things.
Let me ask this guy. Between now and the 24th, okay, do you think, I'm just say Diane, do you think she could give a brief description of the vision of this of an average day? Now we know there could be, different alarms and stuff going on, but just, give us a broad paintbrush stroke of what the vision is. That will help us at our committee meeting.
Yeah.
To help, better understand.
And if they have questions,
Yeah.
we have something to say, this is kind of the,
I don't want to speak for Diane, but, and maybe the fire company representatives here can chime in. I mean, you're all different. To develop a daily routine I mean, we don't do that for any of our job descriptions. They're all based on
something that's very specific by hour or minute per second, but it's more like, it's gonna take for a while for this person to develop his routine, his activity, but, and I'm just gonna really exaggerate this, is he sitting around waiting for a fire call?
No.
I don't think he would be, and I don't think anybody would expect that to be.
No, but
That, I say that's very exaggerated, I understand.
John, actually, I think Diane has shared and developed these duties in the past. And in fact, I think I remember Billy adding a comment that maybe we should add walks on water as well at one of our meetings. So I think there's something like that we already have. But I'm confident of it that we can get to you, that she's already put together as this is moved on. So we can at least get you that.
I mean, the more info we have to share, the more efficient we can be, the more.
the more tools we have
Yeah.
is knowledge, and that knowledge is stuff that the answers that we all need.
We want to be knowledgeable in this.
Right, right.
We're not sure, we don't know, that didn't come up, things like that, so we're asking you to help us educate us, so we can present.
So you said Diane has something already.
And like I said, it's been a long time since we got here, but we've gone through looking for volunteers to fill this position to pay. And we've had many of those kind of discussions on what, the person would be doing. So I'm confident, I've seen that. I feel like you guys are nodding your heads like you know what I'm talking about as well. So I'm sure that can just be
So send it over to Karen, she'll see that we get that. And you can share, I guess there is that funny email chain, Cindy, that
Sure.
Diane has developed.
The OneDrive,
Yeah.
OneDrive.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate, so we're all on the same page. So the 24th, you guys are going to have your committee meeting. The 28th, you're going to get us the additional bullet points that you want to see in the job description. Diane's going to get that back out to everybody, including the borough, for your meeting on October 6th. And we are all, and if there's any changes or any issues at the October 6th week, we have those immediately, so that we don't show up here on October 20th expecting to approve something and not be able to do so. So is that a fair request? Okay.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, is Diane able to give us the mock-up job description by Thursday, because that's our committee meeting? We don't have a committee meeting prior to our 20th meeting here. If it's already typed up, it shouldn't really be an issue.
Is that she back?
She'll be back Thursday
This
morning.
week?
Mhm.
Okay. So,
But I don't know if that job description is what you're looking to do for this person. I mean,
I think it is. They're not asking for specifics like 8 o'clock.
no, it's not, it doesn't do that, but
Right. But it does go, it did go over, I mean, there's quite a bit of responsibilities that individual would carry.
Yeah, I think it's two parts. I think it's, the day-to-day functions, which are pretty general, checking in with your station chiefs and reviewing any equipment damages over the weekend, because that doesn't ever happen. And then the other part is, big projects like strategic plan. It's not like 11 to 12 every day is strategic plan. That could be an entire day or week or month. And then other big projects, budgeting obviously, and apparatus replacement. So yeah, I think it's, somewhat day to day, but also big ticket items.
I think that's a good thing, though, to have that, yeah.
Training is one.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Training, does he have, you know, to say it's a week for that week, does he have a weekly conference call, all the chiefs? I don't know, and it might develop into this sort of thing. But I think it'd be valuable. So the borough has some of that insight of what the vision is. Right now, as Ed said, a lot of this is, you as firefighters are all very familiar with a lot of the terminology. We as laypersons are not necessarily, familiar with it. We might understand some of it, but not, in great detail. So if you can help educate us, so we can share the info, we
Yeah.
greatly appreciate that.
And I'll just kind of from an outsider perspective say that, so you just gave the example of a conference call with chief officers, whatever else. There's going to be more of this that is far more flexible than I think you might feel comfortable with right now. Just having been through this process other places, way more of this is going to change than what you put on paper than you ever realized.
Well,
I'm just saying, go into it, understanding that.
Well, we appreciate your insight on that. And here then, is that something we can say, to our other members is, we're all from different backgrounds.
Do you think she'd ever be open to things?
I'm not totally clear what the document looked like, to be honest with you, so I can't answer that.
So bottom line is we'll get her what we'll get her what she has. I mean, she's not gonna have time to create a daily roster, daily schedule, but I feel like what she did have before was very helpful for us in our discussions. And it may be helpful for you guys.
Sure.
So, and that needs to be to them
By next Thursday.
by next Thursday.
Chairman, I would suggest
maybe could enhance liability. I agree. Does everyone else? Liz?
Sorry, and this may be just because I was unable to hear some of this last time. With the hiring process, when I was reading this, I was sort of taken off guard by the payroll subject matter actually not being explained.
Josh, you're okay.
I apologize if that was explained last time, and I didn't. And I don't know that we completely drafted exactly who that would be, so. Two-stage process, second of that being more driven towards the fire departments themselves being able to ask those questions. But basically, we have the certifications, the trainings that they have to have. The idea behind the panel that they would go through first is that everybody sitting here that's involved in the fire department and say, not everyone that holds these certificates would want to do it. There's a lot of people that hold those certifications. The idea behind that was interviewing them and looking at mainly job competency and how would they handle specific situations. Are they matching with what is listed? Do they actually have that experience? And that being able to be driven by some folks that can hone in on that a little bit tighter, rather than, in my mind anyways, yes, there's going to be those concerns. By the time it gets to the next stage of that town hall, there should be no concern over does that person have the requisite skills to accomplish that job. They should be more concerned with what's the fit of this person. Does he fit with the individual fire departments? Is that a panel of people here? Is that someone that's hired to the side? Where is? Yeah, who are the people? And I'm not asking for specific names, but like, right, because how do we get that? I don't know specifically. Are they?
Within your guys' fire department? Heads of fire department?
I think we're probably looking for somebody professional level. I don't want to knock you, but I think we're looking for expertise. Quite frankly, I think Josh would be good on that committee, that panel.
And
I'm sure there are other.
What is it that you do?
So,
Just out of curiosity.
I work in Alabama, Maryland, captain down there in the fire department.
Oh, okay.
Current assignment is I run their training.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I'm like, you're very much. I just wasn't sure. Thank you.
I mean,
Unfortunately, to go back to your example, I ended up dealing with HR.
we look to other professional departments, maybe the city look there, who knows?
Yeah, and so I would, and this is a little bit different, but I would tie this back to a volunteer department I run at. We did for even sergeants, lieutenants, captains, line officers within the department, so that it wasn't just an internal process. We even looked at, we had a retired chief come in from another department, the chief of the city at the time came in. They had a panel of actually folks outside that kind of vetted that, made some recommendations, and basically kind of ranked that list of here's who would be most eligible for that, so that it wasn't completely any kind of internal preference led to that. So it doesn't have to be internal versus external, but I think there's at least a little bit of that. Is that panel a readout panel or just a suggestion? In other words, if that panel was candidate number 7 is horrible, we're not even passing them on, or is that just, hey guys, just so you know, the panel of candidate number 7 was a 1 versus a 5 candidates for 1, 2, 5.
I think not to waste the time of the professional panel, it would be a list of candidates of probably 3, maybe 4 at most, that have met the criteria. And then they would be interviewed and move on to the next level, which would be the next panel.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're gonna be the main contact person, like they're gonna, all resumes are gonna go to you.
Correct.
You guys are gonna be through whether or not they're, all.
If they
filled out
qualify.
correctly and things,
Yes.
on your different piles. And so will we, as the commission, be able to pick who is that panel? Or did I miss that?
The professional panel?
Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay.
So, and again, we'll back up on that because there's some more on that we should probably discuss, so there's no surprises later. So the panel that we pick, the resumes and the job applications will come to Cindy. Is that correct?
Correct.
They'll be weeded through to make sure that all the requirements are met that we have listed. And from there, those that are chosen will go to the panel. The panel will review. And then my recollection is the panel will recommend 2 or 3 candidates that will come before this entire group. Not at a public meeting. We need to do some research on that to make sure that we can meet for hiring an employee. But it'll come to this entire group, and it would be my suggestion that we have 1 or 2 people from this group asking questions, and the rest of us would be observed at that point.
And I definitely think establishing that list of questions ahead of time, not just flying off the cuff, is vitally important.
Right.
So, and Diane had in here, and we're not going to get into this now, that we would have this by October 16th, obviously. That's going to be pushed back on from where we are now. But it would be good to think about the questions you wanted specifically. You had some HR stuff, specific questions that you want to have answered. Okay. I have a question for the fire department personnel. For the hiring process, for you guys that are working in paid departments, are there panels that do promotions in place already? And would they be a resource for something like this?
So the city of Lancaster, for a promotional process, brings outside agency personnel. So, for example, my last promotional exam was 2 neighboring third-class city chiefs, and then someone with an HR background. He was actually career military, but he was very much administrative. So he, panel of 3, 10 questions, you don't know the questions going into it. They use all outside bodies.
Is that something that we want to perhaps make a subgroup of to develop who's going to be on the panel and how? Or is that something that we all want to discuss and take care of?
You're talking about the professional panel?
Yes.
I think you probably should maybe let us reach out for a list of names and then present it to the commission and see if they make sense.
And Cindy, will you or Diane do that?
And as well as Karen would do that, yes.
Okay. So you 3 will take care of that portion of getting a list of names so that we can go to the next step and select the panel.
Correct.
Okay.
Karen, are you okay with that?
Yeah, we didn't volunteer.
Karen,
Karen?
She didn't say no.
We can't hear her again.
We can't hear you, Karen.
Hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, I couldn't hear you guys, what you were asking.
We volunteered you to take care of the rest of the meeting.
Okay. No, I didn't hear the question.
Karen, would you be willing to work with Cindy and Diane to reach out and develop a list of names to serve on that initial panel?
Absolutely, yes, not a problem.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, let's go to item 5, budget discussion. Salary and benefits. I think everybody should have gotten from Diane a list. There's 2 lists. One is the startup cost and one is, has to do with the salary and benefits. So the startup cost is a more detailed list, gets into different items. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was a question from Morristown, excuse me, from Petersburg Borough that if this is an admin position, does this person, will they need all of the equipment? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I guess I don't really have expertise on this. I'd like to hear from the fire departments on whether, what their feeling is on this.
I think right out of the gate, a new hire could easily be fitted with equipment from one of the 3 fire departments. But turnout gear is definitely designed for you and for me and for him. And it's not like it was 20 years ago where you just take a set off the rack. So to get that person up and running, we could definitely just pull from the 3 departments. But within a year, 2 years, it would make very good sense to equip that person with their own personal gear. Turnout gear, the fire gear.
Is it possible with the anticipated experience of someone like this that he brings gear with him?
No.
No, okay.
So typically, if you own your own fire gear, you are some sort of an instructor. You own it because it's a side job or something else that you're doing. It's fair to say no one goes out and buys their own fire gear just because of the cost.
I think part of our question was, okay, turnout gear, that's obvious. Stuff like it. Does the guy need a Halligan pole? Does the guy need an air pack? Does he need a lot of this kind of stuff? I mean, this guy's more administrative, fire, say, chief. Does he need to have all the equipment in his truck to actually?
If he's the chief, if he or she is the chief in a vehicle, it does not make any sense for them to drive around without bare minimum gear in their vehicle.
So what do you consider a bare minimum? I mean.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question.
If this guy goes up to the scene, he's in charge of the scene. We don't want him throwing the air pack when we're driving Halligan until we're going in the building.
You don't want him doing that until he pulls up. He's first in, the engine's 4 minutes out. He's getting out.
And I see,
Then you ought to have a helmet and some other stuff.
I appreciate what you're saying there.
Yeah.
That is probably not going to happen a whole lot of times, but it could happen. There's something with salesmen, it's basically.
It needs to happen one time. And then you're going to say, holy crap, I'm glad we won the good.
Well,
but I hear you. And to answer your question, the SCBA, no, we're not going to define an SCBA. Within the 3 departments, we have 80 SCBAs. We can hold one, we can get it.
and that's my point.
We have tools, we have all the things, equipment-wise, hand tools, those things. I don't foresee any real purpose.
And that's my point.
May I suggest on this,
Yeah.
can the fire chief and Arsenal here take the list and check which things they can supply from this list? That will help pare it down and make it more understandable.
Pardon.
Okay, what would be appropriate? Can you guys do that for our next meeting?
In fact,
And that was my point. It's like, I don't see a point to have the guy with, I mean, he's got a fire gear, all this stuff, right? I understand it. Because he made an air pack, does he, how he go?
So the same question could be posed, does he need an AED in his car? He's not responding on medical calls, right? But he's in this township building and someone has a medical emergency and he has an AED. It just paid for itself.
Okay.
And that's the
AED, I have
same.
no problem. I'm just saying, air pack, how he go, all that stuff. Do you really see, I mean, does the city chiefs carry all that crap?
You go out there right now, all 3 of the vehicles sitting out there, that say fire department and all that.
Does yours, how often is it utilized?
Almost every, we call our call. So like we talked about at the last meeting, the first riding chief, whichever one of us it is probably going to stay outside. The next 2 to 3 will probably be fully gearing up and going in the building, whether it's the career chief, whether it's the volley chief. This guy has a high likelihood of going in that burning building. So he needs to be equipped to go into the burning building, to take a staff position on any one of the floors that we're working on. And without that equipment, he might as well just stay in this building and not show up.
To maybe explain some of why that's critical, because I know that might not seem obvious. You are going to have a chief officer outside who's taking strategic level command of the entire city.
Correct.
The fact is, if you have a two-story house, it has fire on both levels. You're going to have, at minimum, one, maybe two engine companies and a truck company working there, depending on what size. Or it's a larger commercial building. You could have two different entry points within the building. The fact is, the person sitting in that vehicle has difficulty effectively managing those folks. You get enough crew, and if you, yes, and if you get a, yeah, he's looking at the overall. And if you, when you get those multiple companies working there, the fact is, part of the reason we're here is the staffing numbers in any volunteer service, especially in this township, are not increasing. So that, the demand that places is the company officer who shows up in the right front seat of that fire apparatus now has to work. Right? They're not,
They will have equipment off those apparatus, that's what I'm getting.
they will. So, but hear me out.
And that's my point here, before you get too far in, okay? I'm talking about the first items, you know, you're talking about the guys putting that, which, that all these companies will have SCDA, nowadays, whatever you want to do. I'm just saying, this chief officer, need all this stuff in this, for the starting place.
Yeah, so that his function there would be, because you have fewer folks on the showing up on the apparatus. Now that company officer, who ideally would be directing what's going on there, isn't able to, because he's pushing a hose line in the building. He's separated from his group. So I spent the majority of most of my time up here, and especially my career at work, 3 people on an engine. So as a company officer, I was pushing hose line to firefighters, and hopefully I trained adequately.
But this guy's not gonna be going in on apparatus.
He's not in on apparatus, but he is going to be, because you have 2, 3 crews working in that hazard zone, where their officers are task saturated. They have a limited capacity to manage the people that are with them because of the extra workload that's placed on them because of the staffing levels. This additional chief officer would be gearing up, going inside and supervising those 2, 3 companies that are there.
So this could be the strategic officer outside.
It could be any of them. So if you.
No, my point is, okay, now you're explaining an officer, he's gonna be going to the government. We're looking at a strategic officer, not a tactical officer, that's gonna be taking care of.
Today, he is,
The overall
tomorrow he isn't. You know, today, Craig pulls in first, the chief fire official comes in, Craig, what do you need? You need help, you need a supervisor inside. Now he's gearing up on the side. But tomorrow, he shows up first, and he is outside. It's very fluid. It's not every day, you're gonna pull up, run the incident from his car. If it were that case, yeah, I want any of that stuff. But that's not where we're at. He has the possibility of having to go inside and being an interior supervisor and actually do work. And like I said, a lot of this equipment, I wouldn't get too caught up on it, because between the 3 fire departments, there's enough other equipment that you can make a 4th fire department. Honestly, God.
That is my point when we come up with starting.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like, if I understand listening to the conversation, bottom line is, if I hear you guys, he needs the stuff, but we already have a lot of it. Okay, but there may be some things that we need to get. So this list can be pared down, and we can take a look at what the new list would be. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, the guys got a truck, you know, and here, we can man up later as to whether he would, as you said, between the 3 companies, we probably got all kinds of, every time we have to do it. I'm just looking at the starting posture, we have good emergency, you know, we're looking at, the total starting cost of $177,000. Why do we need this?
Well, first, it's not crap, but maybe use a different word there. But no, I hear you, and I'm all for being frugal and tolerance. I think a good approach would be if we can have the fire companies work together, maybe take a little inventory of what they have that they can provide for us, and then pare this list down to what we, will need to purchase, and it'll be a little more accurate. I think what we're trying to do is just provide a guide in the worst case scenario, okay, for everybody, so.
Well, that's great, except we have to go to a meeting, it says $177,000, we're sort of gonna spend $35,000. How do I justify this?
I mean, we
Don't
have.
don't get me wrong, I don't want to, I want this guy to have, this person have everything he needs, but by the same token, one guy through this list, and being an ex-fire official, back in when we still had horses and all that stuff. I don't see a need for a lot of this initially.
And no offense, but it's very different from when you were fired.
There's no doubt about it, but still, when this person comes on board, he's gonna have a lot to learn. And personally, I don't want to see this person, when he pulls up to a building, running in a building when he's supposed to be strategic.
Right. And like we already discussed, he may be running it. But, you know, and yeah, even going back even further, it's just SOP here. He's first, he's gonna run it. If he's second, maybe he's assisting outside. If he's third, he's gonna go take a division or a group. He's gonna go inside and he's still supervising, just at a different location. And at a location where you have to, you know, have to take tools.
And I would say it would be very similar in my mind to a police chief that's just starting out with the young department. I mean, you still need to give them a gun, you still need to give them a bulletproof vest, you still gotta have the radio, you still gotta have all the car, all that equipment. But it sounds like a lot of it we already have. So that should go.
I mean, I come in on it, you know, really being proactive about that, saying, hey, look, there's probably a lot of the stuff we have, let's use what we got, that's good. I mean, this guy's gotta have his PPE, all right? There's no question about that. You know what I mean? And if it's, depending, you know, his stature and everything, it's gonna be, not everybody can wear everybody else's gear, right? So we understand. You know, and just one note here on the job description in the hiring note, it does say, response to every fire call is not expected. So we understand there's gonna be times when he is available and times he's not available. But just please keep in mind our responsibility as council person, and I would think it would be the same for you, Scott, is fiscal responsibility to our residents. We don't have a blank check that we can just go out and say, you know, sign off and say, okay, we got your wish list, we're gonna give you everything on the wish list. We aren't able to do that, and hopefully you guys understand that. But I like your comments and some of the other comments here, and here again is, the more we learn about that, the more we can convey back to our other council members and stuff, so.
I'm understanding correctly, Billy, when you're saying, you know, if you or Mark or Josh, you guys are first on the scene, you run the show. Am I correct when I say that he can't just come in and be like, oh, bye-bye, you know? But you can kind of tell him how to roll and where to go and where you're needed.
And I think,
That's just something I wanted to get off my plate.
I think maybe Craig, maybe you commented on this, or I don't know what maybe you going, but one of you said is, one of you through, or Mark, are going to see first. You're the command first, pretty, if I'm using the right terminology there. I would foresee him coming on and say, Craig, what do you need me to do? You're to say, I need you to gear up, get in the house, take me to have fun, whatever it is. And that's the way I would kind of envision it going. As others of you would come in, you would do the same thing. Craig, what do you need me to do? Okay, so I'm starting to understand about it. So thank you for that.
Scott, just one more comment on the startup costs.
Yeah.
There is a column there that says potentially pre-existing, which was the intent. I believe Diane did have conversations with the fire departments and understands that some of those items are pre-existing. What you have before you is a worst case scenario budget and a listing of what this individual might need.
Okay.
It wasn't intended to be a end-all kind of list. It was to be presented to show you what this person would require.
Is this, the vehicle there, the F-150, is that seen as a new vehicle or something within the township fleet that's repurposed or?
It's a new vehicle. We have nothing that would be repurposed.
So, and with that, I think what we were looking at was at least two, right, not purchase.
Correct. Again, worst case scenario, This- this shows as a purchase, it's going to be a lease, so it's going to be a monthly payment as opposed to a flat out purchase.
So, why don't we do this, why don't we put this back, I hate to keep adding to Diane's plate here, when she comes back from vacation. But why don't we ask her to just go through this with the chiefs, the stuff that she has asked, is there anything there that you guys see that you would have that could be used that doesn't have an X next to it? And that's on the wide spreadsheet that she had.
In each of the fire, you know,
Yeah, go through and, yeah.
I mean, I think she had those conversations before, but maybe they could be
We've got to
updated.
buy all this stuff. When this person comes on board, he's gonna need a vehicle, radio, connector, stuff like that. We can add to that. We don't gotta do all this stuff at once.
Well, if you're gonna order him turnout gear, you're looking at a 3 to 6 month lead time from when you place an order.
Is that right?
I ordered turnout gear in January and I'll see it in November.
Well, we don't even know what size it is, so
Yeah,
that's.
so I'm just you're aware, like, you know, you're going to know like, the day you say, okay, sign the contract, go get fitted, because we're not gonna see this for.
And frankly, I don't think we would buy any insurance here until they're off probation. You know, there's no sense in sizing someone for $4,000 a year if we're gonna do it in 6 months.
That'll be nice for you.
Yeah, about $4,000. And then in 10 years, you have to throw it in the trash.
And that's just the coat and pants. That's not the boots or helmet.
These guys are selling something that have a real life. But that's another one.
So,
But yeah, I mean, turnout gear alone, that's really small. I mean, between the three departments, there's ample gear.
and as I'm looking at the rest of these numbers, I mean, you know, the big ones were like the scuba, the turnout gear, that kind of stuff, which he already has that's next to. The rest of that, I don't think is gonna be the big cost driver. Also, the vehicle's gonna go down for the lease. So, I mean, hopefully we can get a new sheet put together that represents a more accurate cost. Is there anything else on that? And Cindy, are you okay with that?
Mhm.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, Scott, I guess here on the sheet here, the base salary, I think I saw somewhere in the email, that would be higher.
Yes, I think that we had discussed it before, and it depends on their experience and who you choose, so
I don't think we discussed that before.
what's in the minutes that we all approved.
I don't recall, you know, we talked about this before, we talked about city government. I don't recall seeing a whole lot of it.
Oh, I mean, real
We
quick.
gotta start out somewhere. Okay, we're gonna advertise, we gotta start out somewhere. This is what, where we go from that.
Well, again, like I said, I thought we did discuss that.
Okay, well, so, assuming we did not work, you know, you're gonna advertise, and, what are you gonna say? You can't just say, oh, you're gonna be somewhere between 75 and 85,000. Where are you gonna go? I mean, you don't do that in the township, you do it in the public. What is gonna be the salary that we're gonna advertise?
We typically advertise ranges of salaries when we advertise.
You would typically advertise something that's in the 75, $85,000 range, $85,000 range now.
Yes.
Really? How many people do you have in the township to make that kind of money, second stuff?
I don't know that that's relevant, but
What are we gonna do? When we go with an advertisement, what are we gonna be saying?
So you gotta put the salary in the advertisement.
Bill, what do you want to say in answer to that? What do you want to say?
I obviously think we need to find a good call for the person. Looking at the websites, we're looking between $65,000 to $100,000 for a fire chief. So and obviously, input on this, but are we going to start saying this is what we're doing, $75,000?
It would be my suggestion that we do not stipulate a sum in an advertisement, but we see what the potential applicants ask for.
And I think that's a pretty good idea.
That would be right, I would agree with you, Ed. I don't think you advertise salary, you request them to submit.
But I will say in the same breath,
But
I will say in the same breath, if we get the right man, and we know it's the right,
Person.
that's a senior correct. If we get the right person, and it takes more than 75, or it takes 85, but it's the right person, then we have to make a decision. But yes, let them approach us and say what they anticipate.
Can we hear from the guys that do the job?
I think this is covered on page 2 of your, or page 3 of the hiring. It says to apply, send your salary requirements, part of your cover letter and resume and CV.
Thank you, John.
No, it sounds like a good idea. I'm just asking, because once again, we gotta go back to our meeting, there's how much we're gonna pay this guy, and say, well, I didn't do it.
Again, recognize we have tried to project what we expect. It may be more, it may be less.
And I appreciate
We
it.
have to have a target. We don't want to be groping in the dark.
Well, understood, I hope you appreciate, we're in the midst of, the borough's in the midst of finalizing their 2021 budget. And we need to know what to include, what our, what to include in our budget for this position.
But we would suggest you use this as a guide. East Hempfield Township has some financial concerns also at this time, particularly aggravated with COVID and all that has gone forward this year. We're not insensitive to what you're saying, but we have a mission here, and we're trying to approach it in the best way we can for the best result.
So I think some of the equipment numbers are gonna come down with the lease. We'll redo that, we'll get that to you, and I think at this point, that's gonna be the best number we can provide you with. So as of right now, that 20%, 35 is the number that's gonna be now. We'll get an idea what the lease is, we'll pick out the equipment we already have, and we'll go with those numbers. All right?
But they said it's gonna be like a top figure at this point.
Correct.
Hopefully.
I would say so.
Cool.
Okay, let's see here. The current financial status, I guess, we did get Hempfield's financials, if I understand correctly, we still need to get Orr's panels, Petersburg's.
Did you send to Diane? Yeah, he probably did. Yeah, because the only one I got was from Josh. That's great.
We were in the impression that they were already good, so I will. Okay, do we have any new business? It'll be next. Any public comment? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Mr. Reed, is there a second? Did I hear a second? Josh, second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay.